Wait, are we episode 3?
Have a wine opener. I was gonna click it. I don't know why
Oh,
this is
it's
right
a
here.
wine
I don't
opening.
know why it's in my office
True
right
to
here.
form. Is this episode 3 technically or
Yeah,
4?
we're episode 3.
Okay, cool. Do your little, I think you should do your little wine opener thing.
Okay, 3,
I don't know if people will
2,
see it.
1.
Episode 3. What a beautiful start to the third episode of No Bad Shots. Alyssa Charleston, Stephen Madison. We actually have a guest this time around. You don't just have to hear Stephen and I talk, even though hopefully you're not sick of us yet, because like I said, this is only our third episode ever, but we have a Vandal great and someone who is really relevant right now. He's an NBA assistant coach, Landon Tatum. We get into all the things, and he kicks it off with a really funny story about Stephen, like right
Always
off
ends
the
up,
bat.
always ends up on me. Come on. No, that's funny.
Well, when you make yourself an easy target, Stephen, what can I say?
Always. But he's awesome, and you guys are
Yeah.
really gonna love the interview, and it should be a lot of fun for sure.
Yes. But before we get to all that, we got to talk about a little NBA first. Should we talk playing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously with Landon being part of the Wizards and the Wizards being in the 10th spot in the East, and with the new setup, how the NBA is set up with the playing game, it's perfect to kick it off with some NBA talk.
Yeah. And obviously, we know the bubble was kind of like the start of the play-in tournament, not really play-in game to get into the playoffs. The 9 plays the 10, the 7 plays the 8, and then whoever wins the 9-10 has to play the loser of the 7-8, so on and so forth. But LeBron James has been critical, and then initially really liked the play-in. Last year was like, let him play it out until we find a winner. And then this year, since he's about to be in the play-in game, not as much of a fan of it.
Yeah, it is funny how he kind of, I think he made those comments like a couple weeks ago, and they were like slowly sliding down the scale from
Yeah.
like fourth, fifth, sixth, and then now they're in the 7th spot, and now they're gonna end up in it. And well, there's still a couple games left. I think there's like 5 games left in the NBA season, but I think they should be a little bit worried. Facing the Warriors in a game situation is not the ideal thing. I think in a 7-game situation, the Lakers are a way better team than them. But playing Steph in one game, who knows what he can do, and your season could be trending in the wrong way. At least they'd have a chance.
Already is.
Yeah, at least they have a chance though. Even if they do lose the game or what happens, they can still play in this. The 9 or 10 has to beat them twice.
Right.
But it is funny that LeBron makes those comments, and now they're in it.
Yeah, saying whoever created the playing game should be fired. He's dealing with an ankle injury that he said he thinks he's going to deal with the rest of his career. AD, Anthony Davis, isn't looking super healthy. Yeah, did you see that in your confused face? Like he said he thinks he's going to be dealing with this ankle injury.
Well,
What?
his career is just, it's like, I mean, a couple years. So, I mean,
You never know. He could be TB12 method and play another 10.
I guess. I mean, what? He's on year 18 and he's 36. So,
Yeah.
that is true. He
And
could
he's
play like
looking the way he
24.
looked.
Yeah.
Right. So the good thing, the thing that makes what Landon is up to right now super interesting is the Wizards have struggled for the past couple years, but right now they're looking good. At one point, right before they lost last night, they had won like 15 of their last 19. You've got Russell Westbrook breaking Oscar Robertson's triple-double record. We talk about Russell Westbrook and like what it's like coaching him, because we have a perception of him as, you know, who he is. Volume shooter, shoots a lot, sometimes doesn't shoot a ton of great shots, but there are no bad shots on this podcast. We know that. We talked to him about just the team chemistry and, you know, Bradley Beal, they're trending upwards, and it's a really fun time to watch the Wizards. I knew Rui Hachimura, covered Rui Hachimura with Gonzaga. He's doing really well for them. So DC is having some exciting basketball moments right now.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before, these playing games, when it comes down to a team that has scores and the ability to score the ball at a high rate, it really benefits them. So someone like the Wizards or playing the 9-10 right now would be Indiana versus the Wizards. That's not someone that Indiana wants to run into right now. You have a guy like Bradley Beal that can put up 50 any night. You have a guy like Russell Westbrook that pushes the tempo and will attack you all night. Triple-double, 30-point triple-doubles. You got Rui. They got shooters. I mean, they're just a scary combination to meet in a playing game, and you know they can make some noise in the playoffs. And it's really interesting. And it's awesome to talk with Landon about like that whole situation and how his job's evolved there for sure.
Yeah, and we talk about like offenses and how complicated it is. We talk about Don Verlin back in the coaching days and like those crazy binders that he would hold up and like the play calls and like not him, but like the assistant coaches
Me.
and how tricky you guys had it. Cause like I thought we had some plays and an extensive playbook. You had to memorize a lot and then think about a lot during the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve for sure when you
Yeah,
step on the Idaho court.
for
But
sure.
yeah, it was awesome to talk with him. And how about we talk about a little bit of the what's going on in the baseball before we hop into that interview with Landon?
All these no hitters, pitchers are dominating this year. It's nuts.
Why is that? Do you have an insight on this?
So, well, I know that they were like trying to make the actual baseball lighter this year because we know they've made adjustments in the past and like we've seen, hitters dominate the game and like tons of home runs. Like I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but right now this year's offense has been slower than any other April and May from 2010 until right now. So I think we checked, there's been 5 no-hitters so far this season, which is wild in baseball. And I like outside of like a lighter baseball, maybe. I don't know, like maybe the COVID season, like less reps, like less, you had fewer games last year. I don't know.
Yeah, but it seems like hitting is something that you do all the time as a baseball player, anyways. You know what I mean? I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same
But
with
in a
baseball, I
live game
guess.
situation.
Yeah, true, true, and like facing different types of pitchers, different types of styles. But like you
Yeah.
mentioned, because didn't they tighten the ball, like the threads on the
It
ball,
seems.
the seams a couple years ago, and they were hitting all the home runs. And then like Verlander was pissed off because the ball's all messed up, and they're hitting home runs. And then now they're making the ball lighter and it's harder to
They're
hit.
constantly messing with it, keeping us on our toes. I think the stitches were thicker too.
Yeah,
Like you could see them. Things have changed so much. It's like, how many rules do we need to change? How many things do we need to? I don't know, because
they
it
need
makes it
hitting.
harder for everybody.
They
You
need
got to have
hitting.
hitting for, yeah.
Baseball's not
Like,
fun.
would you? Yeah.
Not
So would
fun.
you agree? Like, you have to have hitting. You have to have offense. Better offense means more eyes, more exciting to watch than good pitching.
Yeah, let the steroids flow. Let them just. We need the best. I
Inject baseball with some excitement.
but I used to be a like not a baseball purist, but I was a huge baseball fan as a kid. Huge baseball fan. And it
Okay.
was in that era of, the steroids.
Mark McGuire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the home run derby in
Sammy
2001
Sosa.
in Seattle. I
What?
got a chance to go to it because Safeco was just built. I think it was 2001 or 2002. It was one of those years. And I got to watch the home run derby, and that's when I was the biggest fan of baseball. And obviously that was the last time the Mariners went to the playoffs. And I was actually at their last game when they lost to the Yankees as a little kid. I was up in the bleachers on left field.
So you
Unbelievable.
saw the heartbreak in person, whereas
Yeah,
everybody else has just experienced it.
exactly. And I was little, and they haven't made it since, which is crazy. But those were the like glory years. I feel like baseball has just steadily declined because there's just all this. They just don't want to excite the game. They don't want the game to be exciting. People even, yeah, it's just I don't know.
Baseball has so many unwritten rules, and I think some of them make it more fun. Like with pine tar, pretty much so many people use it, but you don't talk about it. Or like the bat flip stuff, obviously the most important.
Who cares? Flip your
Like
bat.
Fernando Tatis Jr. bringing some life back into it. Like, I don't know. When you talk about baseball purists, though, like that's why people don't like it, is that it takes away the respect of the game. But that's when it's exciting. I mean, but back in the day, like, was Sammy Sosa flipping his bat? Was Mark McGuire flipping his bat? Mark McGuire wasn't, I don't think.
I know, but they're
It was
juicing
still
home
fun to
runs out of
watch.
the yard all the time. So that's what makes it exciting. Like
That's
I
true.
just, you know what I mean? So it's like if I go dunk on someone, you're gonna give them a like in the NBA, they look him down, they stare him down, they do something like taunt him a little bit, and it makes it exciting. It makes it fun. Baseball, you hit a home run, you're supposed to just set your bat down and run, and don't look at the pitcher. He might flip
Yeah.
you off. He might flip you off or something. But
Don't
just
stare too long.
yeah, like man, point at it with your bat and then flip it. Like you know what? I just hit a home run off you. Like get better.
I do like Trevor Bauer's attitude when it comes to that. Like, yeah, then don't let it happen. Like he's a pitcher, and if Fernando Tatis is going to do his thing, like, and show you up, don't let him hit a home run off you. But it's as a pitcher, that's tough to do. It's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. Like just like if you're a basketball player, you're gonna get dunked on. If you're playing hard, you're in the right spot, you're gonna get dunked on. It's just part of the game.
Totally.
But it's just like we can't. people just take it so offensive in baseball, and I'm just like, dude, and I get like all the unwritten rules, like don't walk across the mound when you get out. Like, you know, when people get out at first, they walk back to the dugout and they cut right in front. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what'd you do? You just broke the pitcher's concentration for a half a second. Like, you can't get locked back in. Like, come on, man. Like, those little
True.
things just makes baseball. I don't know.
Baseball is different in that way. It is unique for that reason, but
it's losing people. It's losing people.
Yeah, it is losing fans, and the pace of play, all that stuff is going to be interesting to watch. Anything else about MLB? It's the Mariners' year once again. That's all I know.
Is it? Is it?
I hope.
That's what we always say.
Was good. Anyways,
I feel like I've heard that a million times too, but yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, how about we hop into this interview with Landon, and hope you guys enjoy. Before we hop into this interview with Landon Tatum, I want to announce a new sponsorship to the podcast. Shout out this sponsorship because it's our first, and everything that's first is memorable. So thank you to theeverydayfan.com for joining the No Bad Shots podcast and supporting us. And I want you guys to go support them. So go check out their one-stop shop for all your sporting news, whether it is the NBA, NFL, or the EPL league. They have you covered, but they do not stop there. From pop culture to wrestling and entertainment, there's something for everyone. With some of the best writers in the game, come get a fresh perspective from the everyday fan like yourself. While you're there, also, go check out their memorabilia shop. It is unbelievable. They have so much gear, so much cool stuff. You can make your man cave one to envy, and that is at theeverydayfan.com. Go check them out. Shout out Everyday Fan.
We are so pumped to welcome on former Idaho Vandal point guard and current assistant coach, player development, Washington Wizards, Landon Tatum. Landon, it has been a while. I think the last time I saw you, it was in Moscow. How are you?
Probably was in Moscow, actually. I'm pretty good. You know, I'm out here in the East Coast now, Washington, D.C. Feel like I've been able to live in a lot of different places, from Texas, you know, Idaho, of course, and now D.C. I'm getting a little bit of taste of every single region, it feels like so far.
Moscow has to be the best, right?
You know, right? It was so good. I went back. You know, it was so good. I went back a second time after I left there.
I think we all have. Right. I think we all have here. So
2 times.
It's been interesting for sure.
Man. How much do you not miss Stephen? That's what I want to know.
I was the best teammate of all time.
I actually do miss Stephen because when he was, you know, I was older when Stephen got there, so I got to see him like grow up a lot as like being like the high school kid that really didn't like do much of anything. You got to like see him come in like from off the bench to like all of a sudden being like the leading scorer of the team, like making the WAC championship, if I remember right. Like it was, man, watching all that and like watching him grow in that sense was like awesome.
It was rough. It was a rough start. I mean, there was those days that I was the punching bag for the coaches and everybody else, but
big time punching. You know what? I still remember. I think it was your freshman year, and it was New Year's.
Oh, bro! I was just thinking that in my head. I was just thinking this exact thing. We actually hung out with the girls' team that night. We did at Sheridan's frat,
which we never did. Like and I, our teams like never hung out until that like winter break. But yeah, go ahead, tell the story.
And I remember like, I mean, I don't want to say he got plastered, but like he was gone. And we had practice the next day, and like he couldn't do anything right.
It was embarrassing. It was bad. That was probably one of my worst moments of practice of my whole career. Like it was bad. I was in a dumpster. Literally, my head was in the trash can.
And he knew, and like coach knew, and like he just kept making us run, and like Stephen was struggling.
But it definitely was a growing process for sure, man. And I always actually look back and I tell people, like, your guys' leadership, I mean, just having the veterans that we had those freshman year, I mean, it grew our team and helped the program grow for sure. That was one of the biggest things. I mean, obviously, Verlin being new, and then you guys coming in and being there and showing us young guys how it was done. It trended the program in the right way for sure.
Right. Like it was, I mean, even for myself, when I first got there, you know, having guys like Mac Hobson, who I know, you know, like even Kashif, Marvin Jefferson, like all those dudes, like my redshirt year, like it was big and vital, kind of like seeing how everything kind of needs to go. and then trying to help propel like the program to get where it needed to be. And then, it also helps out because the girls team was really good and you just kept seeing them win. It felt like every year you just see them like get better and better and better. Like that was good to see too. It's like, it's healthy competition because you want to be just as good as them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Oh, I so appreciate a shout out. Thanks.
Hey, I got you.
Hey, so Landon, I know you got a chance to play a little bit professional and then you make the transition to coaching. I don't even remember. I don't think coaching, that wasn't something that you were planning on doing after college, was it?
I had zero interest in coaching.
Exactly. That's what I thought. So talk to us about that. Like, so you made the transition from playing pro. I know you played, I think it was Germany, right? You were in Germany for a little bit. And then I see you on the coaching staff at Idaho. And then it just was kind of surprising. And then you've been able to work your way into a job here. Tell us basically just the timeline and the story of that.
Man, it's crazy because I remember my dad was always pushing me. He's like, man, you should coach. And I'm like, Dad, I can't deal with egos like that. I'm a pretty like quiet dude, kind of like to myself and things like that. I don't know if I could do egos and all that, so I played in Germany for a year. And then, in the transition, like you guys know, like trying to figure out what you want to do next, Verlin had called and asked if I wanted to take a spot on his coaching staff. And that was kind of like the decision of like, do I want to keep playing or do I want to coach? And, at that time it was like, I might as well try to do something else, see what happens. Worst case, maybe you get an opportunity to play while you're coaching, you can still leave. Because that's what a lot of people were doing, especially at that time. Like it felt like coach would have a job and the next thing you know, they're like gone halfway through the year. Because that's what happened the year I took over. A guy had left like 2 weeks before the season started, So I took it and ended up being there with Connor Hill senior year, which that was an interesting thing in itself because Connor was a freshman my senior year. Seeing him grow up, Mike Scott was there as I think he was a senior. Suki Wiggs was just becoming a sophomore. Perry and Callan Durrett, and Arkady McCurchin, who I mean, funny story is the first time I get back on campus and I walk into like the locker room. I called Arkady Connor. I was like, Connor, damn, you got big. And he turned around. I was like, oh, shoot. Man, I got those two confused the first time.
Shout out to Ark. He's a good
Shout
dude.
out to Ark. He is one of my favorite guys. I loved Ark.
Talks heavy on defense. He's a loud talker. He's a good teammate to have for sure.
Yeah, I loved Ark. Even like great dude to be around. But I stayed there for a year, and then with my fiance, who I met actually when I was still playing. Our year ended at Idaho, and I just kind of decided to make the transition to be with her. At that time, she was in law school in Georgetown in D.C., and I just moved up here, still somewhat in shape. Not like I'm not in shape anymore, I can tell you that. But I was like, man, I was playing like every day at her law school, and just so happened like a guy I was playing with asked what I did, and I told him I was just looking for a job, and he connected me with a guy named Ramon Penny here in D.C. I had like I don't even want to say an impromptu interview because it was really just meeting the guy. Like it wasn't like he was a guy really looking to place me, but I decided to just be talking to him through a mutual friend. And he called me like the very next day and was like, hey, there's like an opening as a team attendant for the Washington Wizards, which essentially is like a ball boy. And I was like, I'll do it, whatever. I did it first game. The equipment manager at the time, Jerry Walter, was like, hey, you want to come back? We play this team from Brazil, Bauru, tomorrow. I was like, all right, I'll do it again. So I did it. And he's like, hey, if you want to have the job for the rest of the season, you can do it. So I did that for a whole year when Randy Whitman was the coach. And then that same year, Randy Whitman got let go and Scott Brooks came in that summer. And he kept me on as basically an assistant video, with some help from David Atkins, a player development coach who had been around the whole time I was a team attendant, and actually allowed me to be in workouts and things like that. And basically ever since, I've just been blessed enough to move up every year.
That's so cool. And for like people who watch on TV, the NBA has so many assistant coaches, like the staffs are really growing. How hard is it to stay on an NBA staff? Like how much harder is it even compared to college and like kind of working your way up?
It's just so different because you have, like you said, so many coaches. You have coaches that are just for offense, coaches that are just for defense. And you have quite a few coaches that are doing player development, guys on court workouts and things like that. And I mean, it's tough because you got to basically continue to learn, especially as a younger coach that's never, of course, played in the NBA. Like you have to make sure like you have to gain players' respects and coaches' respects of that. Sometimes it's through, being able to be on the court with players. Sometimes it's just knowing your X's and O's, and sometimes it's just being able to have personal relationships with guys. So I mean, it's pretty competitive, to be honest.
How long do you think it took you to gain that respect? Because like you said, not being a player that played in the NBA, obviously guys look at that, and sometimes sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. It's obviously not always the right situation to look at someone like that. But like, how long did that take? Because I know with some guys it takes longer than others, and it can be a difficult process.
Well, for me, I think it helped out that I've been with the same team for almost 6 years now. And a lot of our guys, our main guys, have been here since I've been here. Nice. But, back then, that was 5 or 6 years ago, I could still play, and being that I could still play and move pretty well, like you get a couple buckets on guys consistently, they start respecting that, oh, this guy actually knows how to play. He's not just out there,
So you're like playing with these guys too? Like you're mixing up with them? Is that how you help?
We'll legit go like 1-on-1 and 2-on-2, like 3-on-3 at times. Or if like we had guys that were hurt, you get thrown into practice from time to time to have to go in there for a guy just to make it a run. I mean, you have a couple of solid outings with them. They usually respect you pretty quick.
I have to ask.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go start, Alyssa.
Well, I'm going to talk because you guys have been killing it as of late. The Wizards, I mean, at one point, I think 2 or 3 days ago, it was like you've won 15 of your last 19. You get Russ this year, Russell Westbrook. What has it been like seeing this streak and seeing him do what he's doing, breaking Oscar Robertson's record and like that, just like being around someone like him? Because we know he's got an ego for sure. You have to be like confident to do what he's doing. What's it been like?
Man, it's been awesome, to be honest. I know the media portrayed him to be a certain way. Like he is like all team, all togetherness, all about playing hard, being tough. Like in all honesty, being able to witness it last night here in Atlanta, like the way I honestly thought that shot was going to fall, the way the game was going, and it just felt like, the storybook ending, like he's going to end the game. Didn't bounce our way, but being able to see him do it on a night in, night out basis, like you just see how hard this dude plays every single game. Because like it's not like the rebounds are just falling to him. Like he legit goes and gets them, and he just plays with such a tenacity every single night. Like you just respect it, and I mean I'm just glad to be around him, to be honest.
Have you ever seen someone? Obviously, you've been in the NBA now for 5 or 6 years. Have you seen someone that is at his level of like stardom that is so team oriented? I feel like it's hard to find nowadays, especially someone of his talent and like the way you're talking about him now. Have you ever seen anything like that?
It's tough to say it because
you're obviously on the other side of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's always hard because, of course, like to me, like Brad's always been a team guy. He's just now really starting to get a lot more recognition. It's just that when you see a guy that's been like an MVP of the league for at least once and, doing all this, you never know what to expect when they first get here, but being able to see him like up close and personal on a daily basis and the way he goes about things. And he's not like he's an unapproachable guy. Like he'll talk to everybody and treat everybody the same, So, I mean, I got nothing for respect for him.
Does it really feel like the team is like really continuing to get better and better with these guys being mixed in and like Rui's killing it? Bradley obviously had dropped 50 the other night. Does it feel like, I mean, I know we've talked like the last couple of years when you guys are on a rough streak, like before the bubble, like it's not easy to, when you play so many games and you're losing. Now it's like you're really seeing the fruits of your labor.
I think for us, it helped out. We got healthy. We really, for us, it felt like every time you start to hit you feel like, okay, we're turning the corner, something would happen. We had the big COVID thing happen for us, which I think we were the first team to really get hit with it. We were out like 2 weeks, couldn't do anything, and then you basically get thrown in the fire right out the gate on a road trip with like 3 really tough games at that time. And then I think we had a couple injuries halfway through the second half of the season. And it just feels like now, like we're actually healthy with everybody here. And I think everybody's playing with a lot of confidence.
Definitely. Also, if you could give us a little insight on Scott Brooks and like his coaching style. He's always been someone that's obviously had to, going from OKC with Kevin Durant and Russ and then now to the Wizards and getting Russ. Like talk to us about how his coaching style and just things that you've been able to learn from him.
With him, I've learned like you got to be personable with everybody, and it's interesting because him and Russ, they both basically, Coach Brooks coached him in Oklahoma City. And I don't want to say they have the same mindset, but they kind of do. Like they're both really personable with everybody. They'll talk to everybody. They're both tough. Coach we used to have like a 2-on-2 game with me and Coach Brooks with two of our other staffers. Like every game, he was competitive and he was physical. He was on my team though, so I mean, I'm not gonna say he would cheat to win at times, but a win is a win. But like just being able to learn, like being personal with everybody, but just having the team take on the identity of the coach too. And I think that's what we've also done pretty well. Coach was a tough player back when he played, and that's kind of how he coaches, but he's also really personable with everybody.
I want to ask you guys, both of you guys, this because it was kind of a thing my senior year, junior year, a little bit, and it's totally in the league. Like guys that really, really are successful usually have like a Kobe mentality or kind of like that Mamba mentality that you have to be a little bit selfish and you have to be confident in a way that like nobody else is. And for you, like you're probably seeing that with Russ, even though he is a total team player, portrayed to the media, portrayed to like the rest of the country, he's got a confidence that can't really be rocked. For me, like it was my senior year with Stacey Barr. She was like, we knew we needed her to win games. Like she was going to be a scorer at the elite level. Do you guys have players that like, but it wasn't always easy to play with. So I'm curious if you guys believe that, like to be kind of like a cold-blooded killer, dominant MVP kind of player, do you feel like you need that crazy confidence? And is it like hard to play with that too?
I can kind of answer it. I mean, I was honestly kind of a dickhead my senior year because I wanted the ball and knew in certain situations like we needed me to score, and so I would sometimes get mad at my teammates like, "Hey, give me the damn ball!" Like if we go through a drought and I don't touch the ball for a couple possessions, it would irritate me because I knew that I needed to be the one to get the shot up to give us the best chance. And so sometimes it would come off as me being an asshole sometimes, but then people appreciate it when you're obviously winning and you're able to do it as a team. It wasn't like I was an asshole all the time. Like that's just not me. But there's a little bit of that for sure, definitely.
Yeah, I think in order to be successful, you got to have a little bit of that mentality. You know what I mean? Especially if you're looking even going from high school to college. Like, and I think that's what helped Stephen out too, was he had that mentality as a freshman. And he basically had to dial it back because he wasn't going to play over the dudes that was ahead of him, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Definitely. But without that confidence, like he may not have been able to have as solid of a freshman year, and the jump he made from his freshman to sophomore year may not have been as good. But I think in general, like to me, most every good player has that sort of mentality. It may not be as extreme as others, but in order to really be successful, you have to have that sort of mentality.
It is interesting though, like that. Even like Vic Sanders. Me and him, like if you look at us, our freshman years, we both averaged like 4 points or whatever it was. Like
y'all were identical because I was there when Vic Sanders was a freshman.
Oh yeah,
exactly. And he had that mentality, and he had it when I knew him in high school because he was at Jefferson. And I used to go back and play those guys, and it's like that. But then you get into certain situations, like you said, there's people in front of you. But then when your time is to shine, it's still there, and that's when it starts to come out even more, and that's when you start to dominate games with certain aspects of it.
Shout out Vic Sanders too, because as a freshman, like I know he had his growing pains for sure too. Like it was interesting being there, seeing him and comparing him to Stephen. Like it was like those two, it was similar, really similar.
And he's a legend. He's unbelievable basketball player for real.
Great scorer. Both of you guys were great scorers, and he was pretty humble too. Like I remember I covered him when I was in Spokane at KXLY, and he was playing it at Idaho still. And like I didn't know what kind of personality he would have, but he would like dominate. I think he had like 30 or something against Eastern, and then he was so like kind and gregarious afterward. Which is I don't know, that part is just kind of interesting to me because Landon, now that you're in NBA, you're around all the guys that are the best players in the world. So it's like, have you had problems where there are people like competing egos and you're like, you have to simmer them down, or is everyone kind of like a professional at that level?
For the most part, everybody's pretty professional. And I think that can be the hardest part about the NBA is like, you have to try to get the whole team to buy into a team concept and not an I concept. Because, I know the other podcast, Steve was talking about the G League, that is cutthroat.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's probably you talk about one of the hardest jobs to me. That could be one of the hardest jobs to be a head coach in the G League, because trying to get a group of guys to buy into a team aspect, knowing that being an individual and having some pretty solid stats helps you get a call up. That's hard, and then the travel is way worse. That's a rough life.
It's like worse than college.
Oh yeah,
It's just work. It's like it's so unbelievably cutthroat. Like no one cares about anyone else besides themselves in that league, and that's like what the league's been basically made to be. So it like you said, it's incredibly tough.
yeah.
Which makes me curious about, like obviously with college, like we all had experiences with college, we all played overseas. So we know kind of the difference between college and pro with all the things that are being offered to like high school kids now, like Jalen Green deciding to stop playing at Duke, and then other guys that like decide to go to the G League and we don't even know their names instead of going to college. Like kind of wanting both of your perspectives on that now that Landon, you coach in the NBA. Is it helpful? Like we know the names in the rest of the media, the world. Does that matter though when it comes to playing in the NBA? Is it better to play in the college system or better to jump into the G League?
I think it's tough, because I didn't really get to see a whole lot of the G League stuff going on. Like I knew about, of course I knew about Team Ignite and things like that, but
Yeah.
I think it's tough because at the end of the day, it goes back to when I was in school, taking all the journalism classes. Like it's one of the only like athletes in the class, and the main topic that comes up is should athletes be paid? Yeah. And it's just like you just hear people you just hear the athletes getting killed, and I'd be like the only one in there, and so it's like it's like a double-edged sword. Like I kind of understand, like if I was a high school kid like that, I'd be going to the G League Ignite too, but I also understand why people would want to go to college. That's kind of hard for me to really give an answer on it because, I mean, if you're good, they'll find you in my case. But at the same time, if you want to make some money early, you got to do what's best for you.
Exactly. Like you said, most of these guys that are first round picks, they go one and done. They're only going to school for 3-4 months, whatever it is maximum. They're done. They literally drop out of school. They're done. But it's like the exposure thing, especially this year with how the G League was a little weird. There wasn't as much exposure. Like I'd be seeing G League highlights at like 12 o'clock in the middle of the day of these guys dunking and playing. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna have a chance to watch the game. Like I'm doing stuff. So it is weird because then like Jalen Green comes out with that statement saying, if I went to college, I would have been the first pick over Cade Cunningham because people actually would have known who I was. Mm-hmm. Which there might be truth to that because obviously you do see the highlights of him and it's like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. But then you get to see probably 20 of Cade Cunningham's games on TV or whatever. And then the NCAA tournament and all that, even Mobley, even Suggs, same type of thing. But then it comes back to like, I'm getting $500,000. I get to live in LA. I'm playing with a group of young guys. I got a good coach. It's hard to deny that to like an 18-year-old that's not set on college. And just kind of the way the college was with COVID too is very unpredictable. So it'll be interesting to see going forward what happens with it. But I think we're going to see more people doing that. I do. I just – but it's the same thing the other way. So the guard on the Ignite was a guy from Anchorage. His name's Deshaun Nix.
Yep.
And the two kids I coach on my team in Spokane are friends with him. They're from Anchorage, and they know him really well. And there's things like him talking about he was supposed to go to UCLA, full ride to UCLA. He was like set to go to UCLA, backed out, went G League. And even him, he was supposed to be like a first-round pick coming into the season – and just did average on the G League team, did whatever, like 10 points, 6 assists. And it's like, well, what if he was on UCLA's Final Four team and averaged 17 and 10 or something? Right. Then is he going to end up being a lottery pick? So there's balancing it. And I think it gets really sticky. And like Landon said, it's hard to tell. Everyone has their own situation, in my opinion. And it's hard to like judge who's is right and who's wrong.
Yeah, because either choice you take, there's a risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the hard part about it. Like you're just taking a risk at whichever one you choose. Neither one may be right, but whatever you feel is right for yourself, I think you just have to do.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that like as an NBA evaluator, like how do you guys kind of block out the noise of the rest of the country? Like do you guys strictly look at film and stats and like not worry about what other people say about, because we hear so much more about Cade Cunningham. There's so much more analysis on Cade Cunningham because you get to see more of his games and his name.
See, for me, since I'm not on that like side of it, I really don't know how they look at it. I'm just a guy like, we might have like a draft workout, then I'll either run the workout or help with it. And the guy kind of comes into it, like I, of course, watch different games, things like that. So you might know a little bit about them, but in terms of like any sort of like deep in-depth like analysis on the guy, like it's going to kind of just be more face value because you're more worried about the NBA team, the whole season than you are like the kid in college, at least for my own thing. Because as a coach, like you got to coach the guys you got, not the guys that might be there in the future.
Yeah.
Either way, it's still a tough evaluation process as it is. I mean, the amount of guys that get drafted, it's endless, the amount of lottery picks that just don't end up working, or it's just not the right fit. It's just it's almost a crapshoot as it is already, which makes it difficult because, like you said, a lot of things come into play, like system, the guy's type, fit. Like he could look great in the workout, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fit your guys' system or fit the coach's style or mesh with the players as well. Like it's tough. It's definitely tough, and that's why the NBA is elite of the elite too. It's a tough league to make for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to know some Don Verlin stories and how much he impacted, like who both of you guys are. Because the other thing is, before I get any stories, I'll give you guys a second to think about it. There's a proposed rule that will allow coaches to have laptops and like tablets on the bench for college. And you already know where I'm going. Because I don't think I ever saw coaches and assistant coaches so aggressively hold up like a binder and like plays like Verlin did, like all the, Verlin staff, obviously, and you guys have both been a part of that, like having to flip through pages and like hold up, like, and as a player, like looking over and making sure you see it. I think that's so interesting. So like, is that going to change with like tablets and stuff like that? I'm curious to see, but what did you guys think of that system alone? And was it like from the coaching side and from the player side, having like binders and like numbers and I know other teams do it, but it was really aggressive on the Idaho bench, and it was funny.
Let me just say this. First, it ain't just looking at the card. It's knowing who the hot guy was.
Yeah.
Like, because we had two sets of cards, and we had a hot coach every game, and it may not be the same one. So if you didn't know who the hot coach was, especially as a point guard, because you definitely had some guys out there that didn't know half the plays or didn't know who the hot guy was. And you had the ball at half court, and you knew the guy didn't know what we were running. Like, it
was rough.
Just a blank stare.
Yeah,
especially if you're not on the same page. It was when I was coaching, I was the hot coach, but that's just
Okay.
No.
I mean, the hot guy. Who was what's that position?
It would switch.
Yeah, we could switch at halftime.
Is he the one that like calls the main play?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
We'll flip two cards. So let's say we're playing Utah State and they know all of our plays. Once you play in the league for a while, the team starts to know our plays, the names of it and everything. So we just have two sets. And sometimes we would even put cards up on the other side that meant that one's the hot one. So if that makes sense. So you had to be on top of it. You had to be on top of it. So if guys couldn't figure it out, they're not playing. And that was the thing about our system.
Oh, yeah.
If you messed up a play, you're gone.
You're out. You are out.
And skeleton, like people don't realize, like when you see what's a movie, Semi-Pro, and they run puke with and that is how we ran skeleton. 100%, no defense, just our plays 100, like as fast as possible.
Watch the group in front of you.
And I still say that to people today. Like it was unbelievable. And like I actually wanted to get your opinion on that, Landon. I know we had a really complex offense, but like how can you compare that to like the offense you guys run in the NBA type offense?
Man, it's different in a sense, but it's so interesting because sometimes I'll even go back honestly and go and look, and I'll be like, man, this play actually like really worked and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like granted, like the timing was different because we had I don't know how many sets we had. We had so many sets,
20,
but like. Yeah. And you had 30 seconds to run it. Like, it was like, there's no way, like, you can mess that up, right? But, like, if you really go back and you look at it from, like, a standpoint of, like, man, you could get a quick hitter. Like, it's insane to go back and look at some of that stuff. But I think it was also interesting, too, like, in terms of, like, when you were, like, a player and you're choosing a school. Like, I think it goes back to, like, you have to choose a school that really fits you. And, like, for me, Idaho was perfect because, in all honesty, I wasn't even planning on signing to Idaho. I was planning on going to like Toledo at that time. And then all of a sudden, before Luciano D'Souza went there, and then all of a sudden, the WAC at that time was really good, but the system ended up fitting me perfectly because it was like, okay, well, I can still be the guy to make reads and things like that in an easier offense. You know what I mean? And that's what I did in junior college. So like for me, it was easy. But I know for some players, like that was not an easy offense to run, especially with guys that are like ISO guys and things like that, because it was not an ISO. That was not an ISO system, and it really wasn't an up and down system.
It's funny though, because you almost knew like those first open gyms and stuff when the guys would come on campus. You knew instantly the guys that like maybe not even make it through the year. And it was almost every year guys were leaving halfway through or whatever for their first season, because you could just tell right away. And I think Verlin did get a little better as basketball progressed and guys were different, that he kind of adjusted it more to, get a little more ISO situations. I know by the end of my senior year, I was able to do a lot more like different looks and different reads. But
you were also averaging almost 20 points a game there, Steve.
Exactly. It's the same with like Vic. Like I remember going back and watching Vic, and I'm like, damn, he's letting him shoot these shots. Like he's not letting other people do that. Like,
hey, no lie, that was not one of the options.
Exactly. But it definitely,
he's not gonna be happy about that in film.
It is funny though. It is funny though looking back, because I do the same thing. I go on Synergy and I look back through those plays, and I just like. There's a lot of good hitters that you could use in a lot of different ways from that offense, and obviously Verlin's a like offensive genius when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah, you don't even realize it until like later on, but it was like, man, that stuff was like really working. Yeah. Like it's crazy.
Once you go play pro in Europe, and you're like, can we run something? Like, damn, man, you're not telling any of these other players what to do.
Right.
It's so funny how it takes a while to like really appreciate what you had in college, or like if you have a good situation, because a lot of people don't have good situations in college or pro. Like it's crazy that having that kind of structure really benefits you later on. Like with Newly, it was really structured too. Nowhere near as many plays as you guys had, and thank goodness, because
y'all was out there running like dribble weave half the time. Felt like.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It's like someone forgot something. It's like, all right, let's just run shark. Like let's just do like drive and kick. Regular. It was what we called it. It was like a motion offense.
I'm about to say, what was it? Getting Stacy to her right hand. Yeah.
Let her go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But was there anybody that was like not kicked off, but like initially you guys both knew right away, like this dude's not going to last. Like he can't remember any plays. He's screwing everything up. He's trying to go one-on-one all the time.
I know someone off the top of my head. I think he was on our team. Were you there when Daz was there?
Daz, sorry.
Hey, first of all, if Daz, I know you're not listening to this, but give me my damn customized Jordans, man. You took all my shoes out of the locker when he left. I'm still not happy about that.
Oh no!
But that was someone right off the bat. I knew on his visit when we played, and he kind of was cooking me in open gym, and I was just like, all right, you're big bodying me. But then he got out there and couldn't remember a play, and I just
Yo, Daz was like one of the better post scorers I had played with, honestly. Like, one-on-one, like, he was probably scoring, like, every single time.
Yes.
And he was a big body. I don't know if you remember Wendell McKinnis. Like, he had that, like, type of vibe. And, like,
Wendell killed us.
Man, like,
he killed us.
To this day, I still talk about Wendell McKinnis. Like, you talk about a dude that was, like, he was that dude that was, like, the enforcer that was actually really good. Because most people weren't gonna mess with them.
He has a neck tat. He has a circle tat with Oakland on his neck.
With neck tats.
And like he was not messing around on the floor like nothing, but he was undersized like crazy. Like I think he's actually playing overseas, or he was killing it. Like
who was the guy after him? They had back-to-back foremen that were really good. What was the other guy? Troy Gillenwater.
Oh, yeah, he was nasty too.
He was nasty too, and I know he still plays like in the Asian leagues, and he's getting paid a lot of money. But like, exactly, post scores, undersized. Like Daz was like that. I just remember his visit. He's like whooping my ass and talking shit, and I'm like, all right, man, like you're doing good versus me. I'm not even really a 4 right now. I'm still skinny Steve. And then it just didn't work out. And I knew right away. I mean, and obviously he was pretty negative, and you could just tell that it just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, Steve was still trying to find his way in the weight room.
Yeah, it was fun. I was just eating myself to a 4-man, as Coach Murphy would tell me. You're just gonna eat yourself to a 4-man.
Like, I mean, I remember watching Daz like a scrimmage only, and then Wendell. Like, I would never know that he was a dominant scorer down low. Like, that's the difference between like college games. Like, not every good player translates to. I mean, he did like. I feel like I remember him being like a dirty work guy, like a workhorse kind of guy. Like he did all the. I don't know.
Like in all seriousness, he might have been one of like outside of course of like KB.
Yeah.
Like Daz might have been our best low post scorer.
But he just
No
couldn't.
way.
You can't remember a play, and you throw schemes in, like even defensive stuff. Like people don't realize that when you like a college basketball, like you're going from the next thing to the next thing of what you got to do, like this possession down. You go from the offensive end of running our offense to okay, now what are we doing on defense? What do I got to do with my guy specifically? What do I got to do as a team specifically? Where do I need to be on the court? And it starts to become like really really tough for guys. But then there's other guys like Jim who couldn't understand a defensive scheme at all.
Jim.
First off, shout out Jim. But he tried to act like he didn't understand English half the time, so he didn't have to do stuff. That's my man, so.
Yes, I love Jim. But he made up for it, though. He blocked shots. Like, KB and him, we had the most team blocks of all time at Idaho with them, too. And, like, he made up for him not being in the right spot, which you can live with as a coach.
That is so. He pretended not to know English. Like,
he just pouty lip.
What? Man, he would not want to do anything. So there's some days like we were running one time.
Oh my gosh.
He was like just purposely not running. I think I got on him that day. I was tired. If anybody knows me, like I hate running.
Yeah.
Like especially like running for like no reason. Like I still remember like that Vandal 2 mile. Like I remember. I don't know if Steve even knows. Like I never made the time ever.
I was there. We carried you across,
bro.
And I was right behind you, dying too. But yes.
And because they used to do it by height, and I remember like, yo, coach, real talk, like it doesn't make any sense to do it by height. Like I outweigh half our 2s and 3s, like that's like my in shape. And so like going into my senior year, he changed it. It was like, well, if you get so many like weight room sessions in, like you only got to run 1. Oh, I was in there every day. I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Seriously, so I never made a time for the 2 mile or the mile.
The 2 mile was no joke, man. That was he went away from it.
Miserable.
He went away from it.
Watched from afar.
I had nightmares the night before about that Vandal 2 mile because I knew if I didn't make it, I had to run it again. Yeah. And I knew I was like, I'm not making this. Like this is not my type of thing,
bro. And then Nado walks the whole thing, bro.
Nado.
Okay, so one more story. You probably remember it. Besides the 2 mile being the worst days, how about the day that we had to do the pad slides in the dome because we weren't counting our sit-ups and push-ups? That had to. I looked over at you one time and you were halfway stopped because being as strong and top heavy as you were, that was one of the roughest days we had. Period.
Man,
period.
Yeah, that was no joke. Like I tell you, like that's what's funny. Everybody wants to go D1 and all that. Yo, D1 that will really make you wonder if you really want to hoop, play football, whatever. Because there's those days in conditioning where you be like, man, is this really for me? Man, yeah,
that was Sheridan's first day. That was Sheridan's first day, and he was throwing up, and like Jake was like, come on, like he's yelling at, come on, walk on, like yelling at him, and he's just like Sheridan's like it's our first day. It's our first day.
Okay, we need a little clarification. So for those that don't know who are listening, Sheridan is a walk-on, legendary walk-on, throws down like nobody.
Sheridan Shane.
Shout him out.
That's so much
the homie.
Serious hops. What are pad slides? What did you guys have to do? This is Scharnhorst punishment or
yeah. So it started. We just snaked the dome where you snake the dome and run together, but we weren't close enough, so you can hear him yelling from the far end like, "Stay up, stay up." Guys weren't staying up. There's a big gap, so if there's any gap, he gets pissed. Whatever. So we come back. We're just like, oh, this is whatever. Like it's just a warm up. We get down. He's like, all right, on the line. We start doing sit ups, man. We just had to do 25.
They were group sit-ups, though, weren't they? Like,
yes.
It was like
so you had to hold.
You had to hold
your thing, and if you weren't holding your arms, and if not, everybody was counting. He would restart. So we'd get to like 20, and he'd be like, restart, and then we go 1, and he'd be like, no, restart. No one's counting. And then we get to 10, like restart. Like we did like 500, literally 500, and then we did push-ups, same type of thing, and then we get done, and he's like, hey, everybody go grab a pad. And we're all like looking around like, grab a pad? Like, what are we about to do? Hit each other? Like, have fun? Like, just yelling at us.
Enjoy ourselves?
Tells us to get on the sideline. So we are on the sideline of the football field in the dome, and we have to slide the pads on the ground.
Sideline to sideline.
Sideline to sideline. And we did.
No.
And it was getting to the point like, yeah, you're stopping like every 10 yards because your upper body is
right?
that and your shoulders too, because you're just pressing
You're
down.
really just pressing.
And so
Yeah.
we did like 15 of them. We're dead. And then he's like, you got to race to get out. And then
Yeah.
I got
Who's last?
I got paired with Nato first, so I was like, let's go. I'm out of here. I'm going as hard as I can to get out. But
yeah, I think he paired me with DG. I had no chance in that.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
Yeah, because Jeremy could run for days. Like he never got tired. Like I was, I had him first. I was like, yeah, I might slow up on this one. I'll save my energy for the second one.
I'm not gonna get this one. I'm gonna hold my energy.
Man,
those
Smart
were the days, man.
You guys, that was a good team though. Like now that you're talking about like Jeremy, you, KB, Jeff Ledbetter, Steve, like you guys were. Did you make it, Landon? When you were playing, did you make it to the championship?
That was
right after you.
Yeah,
like our sophomore year. My sophomore year, your senior year was probably the best team I played with at Idaho.
That was probably our best one. We just choked in the playoff. We choked in the tournament too. I still remember the play.
I do too. I was underneath the hoop, and I watched you. I was like underneath the hoop, and the ball got poked perfectly to that. You poked it, didn't you?
I poked it from behind. I took the ball from behind, and it went right to I think it might have been Bo Barnes or something. Or it was like Hans. It was Hans.
Short corner.
Bad that that's how you know we remember that play. That one hurt. I still remember that.
And we just beat them by 20. That's what pissed me off, man.
We had beat the.
This is Hawaii, right? Hawaii in the WAC tournament.
And who didn't play? Their shooter with DK Johnson didn't play, right? Or Johnson Thomas.
Or the shooter didn't play. He was sick, and then Johnson Thomas fouled out like super quick in that game. And we blew it, man. And that was our team. I tell people like we had legit bigs. We had Jim and KB who were unbelievable. We had guards, Jeremy, you. Connor was coming into his own, and then me. Like our team was so well put together. We beat Oregon State that year. Like we had like a legit team that could have made it to the tournament, and then like possibly beat a team in the tournament. And it was just like, still look back on it, but that was a fun year for sure.
And what people don't even remember is like after we lost in that tournament, we actually played Santa Barbara with like two legit pros and beat them at home. What is it? Orlando Johnson and James Nunley, who were like James Nunley's still playing. Hell, we just played against him actually the other day.
Did you?
Crazy. Yeah.
Orlando Johnson played. He was like drafted in the NBA.
Yeah, like that's the thing most people don't know. But yeah, we definitely choked that game off.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's so hard to get back to that point as a program too. Like at Idaho, at mid-major schools, it's not easy to continue to recruit good players. And like we've seen, the men's program is not where it was, and like obviously everybody's working really hard to try and get it back up to where it is, so respect the effort, but it's so tough when you have like those years and you want to make the most of them, but I guess you just take lessons and move on. But I am curious, Landon, what is something that was like one of the toughest things after college? Like Ben and I joke about how we put on some pounds. Like I was like the garbage disposal of my team. So like we would be at dinner and like everybody who didn't want their food would pass it down to me, serious, and I would eat all of it. And now I realize like you can't do that anymore because you're not practicing 3 hours a day. What was like the biggest transition from you like post college? Because you're still playing, which is cool, but like post college athlete, we don't work out that hard anymore.
Oh, I definitely don't. I mean, our coaches here will tell you that. Some of them tell you got to lay off eating everything. It's tough. I'll be honest with you, on the road, it's so tough. Like we're in Atlanta right now, and all I'm thinking is like I can get some soul food somewhere. That you can't get in DC. But I think the hardest thing is like once you're done in college, it's like, man, what do you really want to do next? Because at times, like as athletes, and I'm sure being that I was a broadcasting major, basically, like you kind of need to do something with broadcasting, like right after or during the time you're there. And I did absolutely nothing with it, but my degree is in journalism. You know what I mean? And even I still remember to this day telling my parents like your degree, and it's like you need to have an internship, but most people don't do internships that aren't getting college credit. So the hardest part is really trying to figure out like what you want to do, and how you go about doing it. I think that was the hardest part for me. And that first year out, that was rough because, you're really thinking like, I still want to play, but how do I also position myself for something else too, without basically having that avenue to go to. That was probably the hardest thing for sure.
And it's so tough because and I think part of this, like why Stephen and I wanted to start this podcast, part of it is like giving some advice to people who have had those struggle years. Cause like you're 21, 22, now 23, 24, 25, 26-ish, still to 29, like 30, 40s.
Y'all are like babies. Y'all are babies right now. I'm 32, right? I'm 32.
I turned 30 in like 2 weeks. So
That's right.
It's coming on me quick. Jeez.
But like that identity crisis post college is so real, and like so many people have reached out to me of like, I'm so glad you guys are talking about this, because it's you are a basketball player for so long, you're an athlete for so long, and then when you switch to something else, whether it be you continue to play pro or like eventually everybody hangs up the shoes and starts to coach or starts to get into their career, but you always look at other people's paths and like compare what you're doing to other people and like, well, they're already there, they're already doing this, like why am I not doing that, or like why don't I know what I want to do? It's such a struggle.
And it's interesting, I'm gonna give a shout out to my fiance Jenny Nanini.
Yes.
So like after I got done with college, she was honest with me. She said, like you're in a different point now than you're used to. Like you're so used to being the athlete that gets recruited because of your skills. Like now you have to be able to market yourself to give people a reason to hire you, and I think that was like when she said like that hit me pretty real, because, I was just so used to, I'm not going to say being given everything, because like everybody just wants you as a player. But like now it's like, how do you help what makes you different than anybody else to get a certain job, and so that helped me out a lot too.
That's huge. And it's something you just have to like kind of suck it up and face it. Like everything is planned out for you as an athlete. Every part of your day is scheduled, and to like figure out once you leave that, oh, I have to fill my own schedule. I have to go do my own laundry. I have to cook my own food. I don't get to go to Bob's. Like
I gotta work out. I gotta lift weights.
Work myself to work out. What? And you don't have the same attention. And like for guys going through the ego thing where like you're the big men on campus, like people know who you are. People care about going to your games and stuff like that. Losing that, it's just, there's so much that like after college you're not prepared for, and your coaches can do what they can. John Newley was great with me too, like kind of preparing me for that, but I don't think anyone's like fully ready to let it go.
No, right, definitely not.
So interesting.
Well, Landon, it was awesome to have you, man. I really appreciate you having a Idaho great with us, and really appreciate you taking this time, man, for real.
No, I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back on once you guys continue to just kill the playoffs and beyond. Win that NBA Finals. Just kidding, putting a lot of pressure on you right now.
It is all good. Glad to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, eventually we'll all be, once COVID stuff is over, we'll all have to go back to Moscow, go to the Corner Club,
do a live episode.
I've never had a tub or like one of those. I've never had that.
So what's crazy is I think my entire time at Idaho, I might have gone to Corner Club maybe a total of 3 or 4 times.
Serious?
I was always in Pullman at Mike's.
Yeah, he's a Mike's guy. Here's a Mike's guy. Isn't that where you met your wife though?
That is actually where I met my wife.
Exactly.
So.
Oh, you're kidding.
Something came good from the Palouse, man. It's good. It was a good choice for you to come out here, man.
All good things. Oh, I love knowing that. Okay, Landon, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Go Vandals.
Appreciate y'all.